Hey guys, welcome back to Real Housewife Recaps. Today I'm covering Below Deck Sailing Yacht Season 1 Reunion. So I really want to know your thoughts on this. I thought it was pretty good. I'll definitely be getting into it all. I just want to know what you thought about the reunion. What you think about the season overall? And what were your thoughts on the reunion? Who of the cast would you keep? Who of the cast would you get rid of? All that stuff. Let's talk about it. Let me know in the comments below. All right, so the reunion gets started. Andy's asking each of them where they are during quarantine. Glenn is on the Parsifal in Spain. Adam's on a ranch in Oregon. Jenna's in Canada. Madison is in Fort Collins, Colorado. Georgia's in South Africa. Paget and Sierra are in Italy in a shipyard. Parker is in Colorado with Katie, the girl he got engaged to, and Byron's at home in Mallorca. So I thought Glenn did a good job during the reunion. He really didn't add too much, but I just liked him all season long. I thought he was very level-headed and easygoing. Sierra to me stood out. She was very thoughtful in the answers she gave and kind of added a lot to, the different storylines and just kind of a level perspective. So I actually really appreciated her during the reunion. Paget didn't really add much. I just couldn't believe how different he looked in the reunion. I remember seeing this picture beforehand of Paget and Sierra, and I didn't immediately recognize him. I thought it was just funny how different he looked. Madison. I like Madison. I don't really have a problem with her. I definitely see an immaturity a maturity that she lacks that Georgia seems to possess. We'll get into it later, but I thought she could have handled herself a little better. Believe me, I think Jenna's the worst, but I thought Georgia did a better job of articulating why she was upset, whereas Madison tends to let her emotions, get in her way. Georgia is another standout for me. I thought she did so well in this reunion. She was very articulate, very poised. I just like her this season. I definitely hope that there's more of this to come and that she is a part of it. I really enjoyed it. Jenna. There's not much I can say about Jenna. I feel about the same as I did before. She's pretty terrible. She and Adam deserve each other. I just don't get her. I don't know. I don't even think she added that much to the show. So I wish they'd just let her go and find somebody else in her place. But man, I am surprised. I thought Jenna would be the worst this reunion. It's Adam. Did you see his douchebag body language throughout? He couldn't even be bothered to look at the camera. He couldn't hardly answer Andy's questions. He is awful. It sounds like he's done with the show, and I say good riddance. I don't even understand why they brought him back for this season. He clearly wasn't into it, and he's a controller and a manipulator. His attitude sucks. They brought Parker on, which, I didn't mind Parker too bad. I don't really think he was necessary for the reunion. We did get to see Chris for just a second, and if it were up to me, I would have swapped Parker and Chris because I thought Chris was great. I thought Parker was just, again, kind of like Madison, nice but lacks the maturity. So, bye-bye, Parker. And we have Byron. I always like Byron. I thought he was pretty good throughout the season. He didn't really have a huge role, but I thought he was pretty good. So Andy jumps right in. He talks about Paget and Sierra's relationship. He asks Sierra if she was bothered by the flirting that Paget was doing with Georgia, and did Georgia cross the line? Sierra said, no, I'm not bothered. Georgia and Paget could have gone about it a more respectful way. And Andy asks, how do you flirt with somebody more respectfully? And Sierra said, by seeing a taken man as taken and off limits. Georgia said, in fairness, I flirted with everyone except for Adam. When you take it out of context, it's inappropriate. Jenna, of course, has to try to get the heat off her and deflect and says, I wouldn't be okay with it. He's my boyfriend. Back off. Okay, Jenna, stay in your lane. We'll get to you. He does say he's apologized. Andy asks if she flirted with a male coworker, would you be okay? And Paget says, we have a strong relationship. I would tell the guy to back off. And then Andy asked Georgia about why she decided to tell Sierra about her feelings before she left the boat. Georgia said she didn't think it was right to snake Sierra like that. And I respect that. I mean, I know she caught from some heat for it. And maybe she should have, but I thought she handled it in a good way. You know, it'd be awful if she didn't say anything and Sierra watched this whole season back seeing all this and was, you know, blindsided. So I thought Georgia did a good job here. Funny moment where Andy asked if anything happened with the threesome. Sierra said, that wasn't really on the table. And Georgia said, I'm not a Kardashian, I'm on Bravo. I thought that was pretty good. So then we see Chris for just a second. Sounds like he's doing good. He's working out. He's making his back feel better. That's great. We talk about Parker some. I'm not really going to go too far into this. I am curious about your thoughts. What did you think? Did you think he added to the season or anything? I thought he was okay. I thought at first they were a little hard on him, but then I did see where he was super disrespectful, and I mean, that would tick me off too. So they asked Parker if he regretted resigning, and he said not at all, and talked about the love of his life. And Glenn said, I think he's got his head in the right place, so that's good. We do start to see some tension here. It's brought up about how Jenna would make the breastfeeding joke over and over. And Georgia said, in the beginning, it was a neutral joke, but then you can see other people getting offended. Maybe you should rein it in. And Jenna said, I just wanted to include everyone. Madison said, you made it a point to exclude me. And I actually thought that was a pretty good point of Madison. Jenna says, I apologize you felt that way. I know you won't believe me, but I genuinely wanted to include you. Madison said, Jenna, you took Georgia and Sierra and said, I want to take you swimming and I want to punish Madison. Jenna said, any rational person saw that, knew I was joking. I got to stick up for Madison here and say, I don't think so. I think Jenna was mean and cruel, and I didn't take that as a joke. I just thought she was being intentionally cruel. So then we come back from break. Andy asks about, he asked Madison if she's seeing anyone. And it sounds like they hinted at that she might be seeing Luke from Summer House. So that's interesting. And then we get into the guests and some of the specific requests on their preference sheet. Oh my goodness. We did get a flashback of that awful guy that picked up Madison and just how wrong that was. It's very uncomfortable to watch again. Andy asks if any of the guests have watched the show and reached out to say, oh my gosh, I behaved so horribly. And Georgia said, they didn't say they behaved horribly. Sierra said she got an apology from Marshall, one of the Long Island boys that kept asking for shrimp cocktails. The picking up incident, and Andy asked if he had wished that he had been made aware of the situation sooner. And Glenn had an excellent answer here. He said, I had a lot of faith in Madison and Parker, especially on that charter and that evening. With those guys, I think they handled it well. I think they knew the line, and if they needed to get me up, in the end, they did get me up. I think they called the moment correctly. So they get into a lighter subject next. They ask Byron about sharing the same cabin as the captain. They asked the worst part of it, and he said that the captain farts. It just provided a funny comic relief in that moment. Glenn said, never in my life. They asked why they had to share a room, and the captain explained, usually on a boat, the captain always has his or her own cabin, but we just don't have the space for it. Andy reveals that there's going to be a special guest to join and discuss further, and it's Captain Sandy, and I love Captain Sandy. She's on Below Deck Med, of course, and that's premiering right after this show, so I'll be covering that next, and I'm super excited about this season. So Sandy worked with Adam before on Below Deck Med, and they were asking if she noticed any differences between his approach on the two shows, and she said, no, not really. I think with Adam, what you see is what you get, which I think she was dancing around that he's an ass on both shows. I might be reading into that. They talked about Captain Glenn sharing a cabin and what was her reaction. Would you ever do that? And she said, hell no. So I thought that was pretty good. And then we get into the section we've all been waiting for. And I wish I could tell you that it was super satisfying, but it just wasn't. These two have just been so awful throughout the season, and they continued it on the reunion, and I don't know who's worse. I think throughout the season, Jenna's been worse, but on this reunion, it was Adam. He was terrible. Adam was super jerky to Andy with Andy's questions. Andy was asking if it was difficult to be in a relationship on the show, and Adam says, pretty obvious reasons, Andy. It was just shitty. He just gave shitty answers. Andy asks if they'll ever get back together someday. And again, Adam gave this awful answer saying, I don't think it's any of you guys' business. Okay, fine. Don't come on a reality show. It's the whole Juan Pablo from Bachelor thing where you do a whole season and then at the reunion you just clam up and decide to be an ass and not answer any questions. It makes no sense at all. They talk about how Adam shows traits of jealousy, manipulation, goading, then blaming, trivializing, and asks if he's aware of how he comes off. And Adam says, I was completely reminded of how I came off this season by public, and I think that was a result of what decisions I made. Okay, so it sounds like he didn't learn anything. He says he's aware. I just don't think he gives a crap. They do talk about Adam and Jenna together after the show. Sounds like they took a whole bunch of road trips together in the van, which sounds like my idea of hell. And this is where Georgia becomes MVP of the show for me. They talk about when Jenna asked Georgia to lie to Adam about both of them hooking up with the same guy. Jenna says, when it came up, the guy we have in common, I didn't really date. It wasn't the full story. We joked about for a minute and it got to Adam. I wanted her just to say, hey, it didn't really happen like that and don't take it personally. I didn't lie. I just ... I don't believe anything Jenna's saying here. Georgia raises her hand, says, I feel like Adam had an idea of how he wanted Jenna to be when she was herself. He wanted her to change to fit his requirements. Adam, that's me going from your reactions to us making jokes about something. Adam says, that statement has nothing to do with that at all. Georgia says, it was a coincidence. We tried to laugh it off, but when it turned into something really big, and Adam made Jenna feel ashamed about her past. She had to lie about her past so he'd accept it. Jenna said, I didn't lie about it. And Georgia said, well, no, I had to lie about it. Andy asked Georgia about when she said that Jenna changed when she and Adam were together. Do you think they were a good couple? And Georgia said, it got to a point where they were having a negative effect on Jenna's behavior. I don't want Jenna to have to lie about anything. Adam interrupts and says, you only felt that way because you're her subordinate. Whew. And Georgia said, no, it's because she's an effing human being. And Adam is the worst. I'm sorry, I keep saying it, but I don't know how else to say. He's a monster. Georgia was just trying to help out a friend, a coworker who was obviously upset, and Adam's attacking her. Andy asked Madison if he thinks that Adam and Jenna made a good couple. Madison said after Adam called Jenna psychotic, she wasn't the nicest to me all season. I went in there and said, F him for calling you that, because no man should treat another woman like that. And then Jenna decides to attack Madison, said, you're using this as an opportunity to say, even though you're a dick to me, I supported you. Again, I think Jenna's way off here. And again, I'll give Madison's a little bit immature, but it sounds like Madison was just trying to comfort her after Adam was a dick. And Jenna just can't help but just always stick up for Adam, even when he's abusive like this. So then the last segment we get, Andy is talking about how the interior crew just didn't get along. They seemed to rub each other the wrong way. They talk about Jenna's double standard with Madison and how she'd get onto her for staying up late to spend time with Parker when she'd leave and spend time with Adam. Jenna was just giving excuses and not listening. Madison was yelling BS, which I thought was pretty funny. Madison was a little bit woe is me through this, where she was talking about having bad time and needing just quiet time to sit and talk to her friend, which I understand that. So they talk about the issue between them seems to be communication. Now, an interesting part here is Georgia speaks up and says, with being up later, you'd expect the other duties such as laundry to be done rather than time spent doing love letters. Ooh, thought that was pretty bold. So there's a little tension a couple of times throughout between Georgia and Madison, but I thought they were overall pretty good terms. Andy brings up Georgia and Madison's relationship. Georgia says we're 100% during the season, and Madison says, no, we weren't. I'm watching it back, and we weren't. Georgia says, think about me. I've got both my superiors being upset with me because I get along with the other one. I love Madison, and we have a close bond. And Jenna says, Madison, I felt like I could trust you at all times with the guests. I just hoped we could have a great relationship. Then Andy asks Jenna why she would laugh that she made an employee cry, and told her she came off as a cruel person when she and Adam were joking about punishing and breaking Madison. That was an upsetting scene to watch, and I'm glad Andy brought that up and called her out for that. Jenna says it's hard for her to defend herself, and she says she knows her true character, and there's a representation of her on TV that's different, which to me sounds like she's blaming editing. She says she knows her intentions are good and knows that she would never want to hurt someone. She says she reached out to apologize, which Madison kind of disputes. And Andy cuts him off and says, okay, we're going to leave it here and be right back, which again just kind of added to the disappointment where you thought things might be discussed a little more. Andy asked Jenna, what was your biggest regret of the season? Jenna says, my biggest regret is that I really do pride myself on building relationships, and I sincerely apologize to Georgia for making her feel bad. It feels like when I apologize, it doesn't seem sincere, but I really have been bothered by some of the behavior I've reflected on, and it's quite a bit, and I hope you know that. And Georgia says, yeah, we do. And Jenna says, Madison, I know we haven't had the chance to talk, but I wouldn't want bad feelings between anyone. Madison says, what did I tell you when I texted you? There should be certain conversations we had privately instead of this. And I think Madison brings up a pretty good point here. It sounds like, why wait till now, to apologize? It just seems so fake. And I agree with Madison. Social media has been pretty brutal on Jenna, and maybe that's why she's apologizing, but I don't know. I just don't know if Jenna has the self-awareness or what. Andy asks if Madison accepts her apology. Madison says, yes, I moved past this and I don't have any bad blood with anyone anymore. And Andy asks Adam, what's your biggest regret of the season? And Adam says, I don't really like answering the regret thing. I generally don't have too many regrets. It's just shit decisions that you learn from all of them. And Andy says, what have you learned this season? And Adam says that I really, really, really despise yachting. Wow. He just can't even answer a question without being a dick. He's so full of himself. It's just so wild. I don't know what his problem is. He's the worst. Jenna should send him flowers because he's actually making her look better on the reunion. Andy asks if it's fair to say it's the last season of Below Deck. We'll see him. And he doesn't even answer. He just waves the camera, to which I say, good riddance. Andy says it's been a great season and thanks everyone for joining him. So I left I don't know. I just feel a little bummed about this. I don't know what else they could have asked, but I just don't feel like they dove deep enough or were hard enough on Jen and Adam for being such jerks. I know it's hard to talk to Adam when he's staring off to the side and not really paying attention or answering questions. So I don't blame Andy, but they just need to kick those two off the show and start over. I'm fine keeping everybody else. I'd like to bring Chris back. I'm fine getting rid of Parker. And I'd really like to see more of Georgia and Sierra. I just really like the two of them a lot. I thought they did great. So I'd love to know what your thoughts are. What did you think of the reunion? Who was your standout and who was the worst? Thank you so much for watching every episode this season. I sincerely appreciate it. It's been a blast to recap my next show. I am recapping Below Deck Med, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Should be a great season. I also recap Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Real Housewives of New York, so let me know your thoughts on that. And thanks for everything, you guys. Follow me on Twitter. I'm at Real Recaps. And I really appreciate you guys watching and commenting along. I appreciate it. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.